Hello everyone, how you doing? Thank you very much for popping by. This is the second time I have done a video on this. The first video was not viewable. I was so angry. But under anger is of course pain and distress and upset and hurt for what is happening in J-Dubland. So, with reference to the tragic Stewart family, all four of them, remembering all four of them, and their beloved pet, I'm very grateful to Nigel Rowley for pointing this out to me, and he's also done a quick video on it himself. We go to the first page of jw.org, there, big shop window. Look down, read the Bible online, Bible's still relevant, world out of control. That's to do with their current publications, okay? Then we have Jehovah's Witnesses. Who are we? As we scroll down, what does the Bible say about justice? A campaign that saved lives. Now, whether this has just come up in response to the murder-suicide of the Stewart family, who knows? It's very recent, and look, they're pushing it. As you can see, I've clicked on it, and let's have a look at it. If this is their response, it's more insulting than if there had been no response. Have a look with me. In response to the high rate of suicide among people in the Mexican state of Tabasco, Jehovah's Witnesses organized a special 2-month campaign in 2017 to redistribute the April 2014 issue of Awake, entitled Why Go On? 3 Reasons to Keep Living. My next video, I'm going to have a look at that article. The campaign was deeply appreciated. Help at the right time. Faustino, I'm going to put in brackets there, Faustino is a very nice wine, by the way. One of Jehovah's Witnesses excuse me, talked to a woman who was worried about her 22-year-old son. The young man was suffering from depression and had attempted suicide. The woman did not know how to help him, but when Faustino offered her the magazine, she said, "This is just what my son needs." The following day, Faustino visited the woman's son, and they discussed the Bible's counsel as highlighted in the magazine. After some visits, the son's attitude noticeably improved. Faustino says he looks more relaxed and happier now. Additionally, he shares what he learns with his brother, who also suffers from depression. As usual, we get no proof of this story, but it obviously is a possible scenario. So let's look at it. The guy has already attempted suicide, so we are talking about very serious suicide ideation and a very serious underlying problem. The fact that his brother also suffers from it could mean one of at least 2 things. One, that there is something in their situation, something in their family grouping that is causing this depression, and it is a reactive depression to circumstances. Another could be that it is there's a genetic factor in there, that this propensity to depression has been inherited. There could very well be a chemical imbalance. Well, of course, chemical imbalances can exist in all types of depression, even though they were caused by something. Something else, those chemical imbalances can need readjusting, and the person can be helped. There is nothing wrong whatsoever with getting spiritual support through depression. It can help enormously. Of course it can. And a good psychologist, a good psychiatrist will assess the benefit for a person, and even if it's totally against the practitioner's own belief system, they must support the client on that, because what the patient needs and benefits from is paramount to everything else. But it does not mean that you don't get medical intervention. I don't see talk of medical intervention here, and that's really important. Whether the person's getting it or not, they should be saying here about that aspect, because this is dangerous, saying, yeah, a magazine. And when we look at the magazine, we're going to see that the information that is very flimsy. It is dangerous to suggest the magazine did it, because also with depression there can be a lot of guilt, a lot of I'm not good enough, self-loathing, lack of self-love, very tangible things like that. And so a depressed person could themselves look at the magazine and say, well, that's not helping me. Just shows how wrong I am, just shows how I can't be helped, just shows how I have no rights to access spirituality. Do you see what I mean? Medical intervention should always be emphasized. We move on to Carla, who lives in a city I can't pronounce. She used the magazine to help a classmate. I noticed that one 14-year-old girl in my class looked sad, relates Carla. I talked to her and she explained her family situation. As we talked, I noticed that she had scars on her left hand. It turned out that this girl habitually cut her hands and legs. She felt ugly and believed that her life was meaningless. Carla shared the Awake magazine with her. After the girl read it, she told Carla that the magazine seemed to be written just for her. With a smile, she said that she now believes life is worth living. You know, this story is so flimsy, so unfounded. It reminds me of these moralistic stories of Victorian times, totally set in the clouds. So we see here there is Carla's family situation is very much behind these results. It hasn't just come out the blue. Things need to be done with the family situation. Now, Carla is 14. There's only so much she can do. But the fact that this story has made it into the magazine, what has been done for Carla's physical situation? Just like the story of the depressed brothers, what is physically being done? And yes, there may be a short-term effect from a magazine, from a Bible study. But long-term, the root causes need looking at. Again, this is dangerous, and especially when we're talking about someone who is in a vulnerable state, like the two brothers, perhaps getting as far as a Kingdom Hall, the love bombing that does happening, the baptism, then the withdrawing of that love, and a very, very conditional love being cranked up. And if they can't meet it, more depression setting in, eventual disfellowshipping, and we know the rest. The potential for suicide comes back, but worse. We have to look at the whole picture. I'm not taking spirituality out of the equation. But this is dangerous. This is dangerous. I think, was it Joe's last video pointed out? Watchtower are boasting about how they spend, months and months researching the tiniest detail. You can research this and you'll know that this is dangerous. Just common humanity and common sense will tell you that this is dangerous. Carrying on in the city of Villahermosa, a man was desperate. He had lost his job and his wife had left him and their children. So he's behind without the job and with caring for the children. He prayed to God for help, but still felt hopeless. And indeed, that can happen. Even the most ardent believer, that can happen, okay? It doesn't mean that God has neglected you. It doesn't mean that you are undeserving, that you are doing something wrong. He was about to take his own life when Martin and Miguel, two of Jehovah's Witnesses, knocked on his door. The man opened the door and the witnesses offered him the Awake magazine. When the man saw the title, he felt that it was God's answer to his prayer. Martin and Miguel offered him comfort from the Bible and returned a few days later, finding the man calmer and more composed. They now study the Bible with this man twice a week. I have not heard of any medical intervention. And we will, as I say, we will look at the article in question and about its details. I find such a staggering hypocrisy, because Jehovah's Witnesses are suffering so much. They do have higher suicide rates both in and both out. Talk to Jehovah's Witnesses in and out, and the suicides that they know of, oh my goodness. I've never heard a group of people, and there's so many people that have attempted suicide, are suicidal, or have succeeded in suicide. Any help in any article, it needs to be tattooed to the insides of every elder's eyelids, I think. The article should be super glued to the wall of Kingdom Halls. Meantime, we are hearing the first-hand testimonies from elders both in and out, still in and out the org, witnesses themselves of and in and out the org, of people with mental health problems who are being disfellowshipped because they have mental health problems. Their risk of suicide is so high. I witnessed this myself firsthand. The suffering of that person. The suffering was terrible. And then the difficulty for that person trying to get back in. And just little or no support for getting back in when they're pleading and begging. And they're not just pleading or begging to get back in. They are pleading and begging for their lives to get back in. There are recordings out there. They should break your heart. If they don't, then something is very wrong. And we do have the Stewart family. We do have yet to find out the contents of her long suicide note. But shunning was happening because the parents decided to send their children to college. And from the information I've been getting, and thank you to all those in the past few days who've been telling me accurate details, college policies do vary from congregation to congregation. Some, an elder could be deleted as an elder. Some wouldn't be. Some will be shunned, some won't be. There's no rhyme or reason to it, although overall we do know that the governing body does speak against going to college, and in the Secret Elders Handbook, Shepherd the Flock of God, there are directives if an elder's child, for instance, goes to college. There is definitely a pattern when Jehovah's Witnesses' own people need something so much, yet the congregation don't give it to them, yet time is spent ostensibly giving it to the community. So for instance, someone may be housebound and need help, and to get a Bible study, it has been known for witnesses to go in, do some jobs and help, while their own are housebound, and because they're unable to get to meetings, unable to go out preaching or out on the ministry work, they are abandoned, left to their own devices. I'm not saying everyone, I'm sure there are many examples that could be brought up now, but there are so many examples of that scenario and similar scenarios happening, okay? So there has to be love within the brotherhood, and there is not. And what is the point of boasting about what has been shown to others when you're not showing it to your own? And people are not showing it to their own family. They have been out to prisons as well. They are known for going to prisons, and inmates do have a high risk of suicide. The campaign did not go unnoticed, and here's what matters to Watchtower. Here's what matters. The State Secretary of Health congratulated the witnesses for their efforts to help the community, and a local newspaper published an article on the campaign entitled, "They Go Out to Fight Suicide." I wonder how the local paper heard. Chances are there would be a press officer, either officer for the campaign or in the area, or the Bethel for Mexico, alerting the media. However, when it comes to other things like child abuse and specific cases, as well as general policies, no response can be got from Watchtower. And as I speak now, no response has been got from Watchtower about the Stewart family, even though a week has gone by. Can you see? Now, as to witnesses turning up during a vulnerable time in people's lives, I'm going to show you something that has happened to me just in the last week, and you can see the patterning perhaps, and how it could mean nothing. Let me show you. So here we are in my real life. Now, Thursday afternoon, right through into Friday afternoon or something, I had a medical emergency. It's okay, everything's fine. Everything's fine. That's not to raise any alarm bells. But I had one crisis which caused another crisis, and oh my goodness, knock-on effect. It wasn't fun. So I got bundled in an ambulance. I am getting to the point. Got bundled into an ambulance, into the huge emergency hospital, then found myself in a little room on my own, nowhere to lie down or anything, for 10 hours. And because people bundled me in and kind of got things together, they gave this bag was with me, which I hadn't used for ages. So I had this bag. I had my phone with me, and I was using the phone and things. Excuse me, but I was a bit bored and things, and I was, because things were a bit hairy, so I was using my spiritual beliefs and asking for help within my belief system, and I was needing that help. And I decided to have a look through my bag and just something to do. It was a bit of an archaeological dig because, as I say, I've not used it for ages, and I just tend to leave bags until the next time I use them. So I hadn't used this bag since the summer, and last summer I had mentioned in a previous video that I'd been given this little thing, and it was meant in a kind way by a Catholic priest, and you got this medal and got this little leaflet with it. And I'd not looked at the leaflet. You can see it's very crumpled up. It just ended up at the bottom of my bag. Now, this isn't my thing. I was brought up a Catholic, Marian, and that it's just not my thing. But I thought, hey, it'd be interesting just to see what they had to say about the medal. So they were saying what it could do and stuff. And at the bottom. Now, remember, I'm in great need at the time, and I am asking for spiritual help, which indeed I got. And often I do find for myself, and I'm not saying I'm right or wrong, this is my experience, that I might think I'm not getting help, but boy am I. And it's not till I look back a little more long term, or sometimes very long term, I go, oh, it was there. So the spiritual side, they have a little note here. Let's have a look. It says, I'm trying to read this at the same time as filming it. Suffering in one form or another comes to all of us as we travel along life's road. When we meet suffering, it is difficult for us to accept God is a loving Father. The miraculous medal challenges us to look at life again and accept the protection and encouragement offered us by the Mother of God. The medal is no good luck charm. It is a reminder that Our Lady is, to quote Pope Paul VI, a sure hope for those troubled in mind as they often are, divided in heart, uncertain before the riddle of death, oppressed by loneliness, a prey to boredom. Our Lady will help lighten our darkness, for she brought forth him who is the light of the world. Now, I have experienced Catholicism. I shan't go back there. I have now experienced that some people are nicer in it than Catholic history would lead us to believe. Oi, oi, oi. And I am glad that many of their sins are being exposed and continue to be exposed, but that's not to damn all of them, just like Jehovah's Witnesses, okay? But can you imagine if I didn't know Catholicism and I found this leaflet in my hour of need? Imagine if I found a tract left in a waiting room in my hour of need. Who's to say? It could be a Catholic tract, it could be a JW tract, it could be anything. I hope you get what I'm saying. I think when I was distressed yesterday, I think perhaps I was clearer in what I meant. But I was blocking the message with upset and anger. Okay, so next video we'll be looking at this life-saving magazine. Thank you so much for watching. Thanks for your time. See you again soon. Love to all. Bye.